And I
was
love the
fun.
scallops.
It's like, you sit there and you've
I
got
like the Gulf Coast.
difference in age and agility.
And we did drive out and look at the beach and stuff.
How's it going, Marcus?
I'm,
Good.
I haven't taken a bathing suit to Florida.
How's, how's retirement?
Great.
During Christmas,
Loving
over
it?
Christmas, my daughter and her
Wish you would have done it sooner.
Well, you know, financially, I mean, maybe I should have stayed longer, but,
Oh,
you know, no, we're traveling,
are you?
going.
Well, they're young, they can do that, but, oh,
Figure, you
it'd
know,
be something
between
to
now and
see.
70, that we better. Never know.
Yeah, that's true.
Can't start without her.
Yeah, that's true.
She said she'd be right back.
Hi, Mark.
Marcus, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
Good.
Call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Monday, February 12th, 2024. Roll call?
Rocco Gonzalez. Here. Mark Leesner.
Here.
Mark Piantek.
Here.
Tom Hopmar.
Here.
Mayor Hagedorn. Jeff Patke.
Here.
John Borgman.
Here.
Chuck Watson.
Here.
Chad Briggs. Kellen Witt.
Present.
Mike Wood. Sal Maniaci. Sarah Skeen.
Here.
Please rise for the pledge. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the December 11th, 2023 meeting.
Motion to approve?
First
I
and
do
sec-
have one change, and I don't think it means anything, but I was absent, and you didn't have me down as absent.
Okay.
Okay, got a first and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Moving on to item number 3, Chapter 420, Stormwater Management Standards Code Revision. And we also have a letter that was sent out after that, if you have that. All righty.
And I will just go ahead and introduce
Yep.
Charles, our city
Okay.
engineer, to run through these with you.
Oh, good evening. Yeah, so it's quite a lot in there. So basically, I'll give you some of the background. So we're looking at updating our stormwater codes, Chapter 420, in response to DNR coming in back in '22, and they audited us and found us deficient in a lot of categories for our permitting through MS4. So they have a bunch of requirements. One of those is to update our codes to cover these 3 areas that's in the letter: illicit discharges, post-construction BMPs, and then construction projects, stormwater runoff, silt, stuff like that. So that's the 3 areas that we're modifying in the code for the most part. So the first one was the grading permit, and that tackles the construction projects, kind of outlines what the, right now in our code, the grading permit is just like one line, just says you need a grading permit if you have more than 2 feet of elevation change or more than 50 cubic yards of fill brought in or moved. So now we're really spelling out and kind of make it more like a land disturbance based on how much like square footage that they're disturbing, and then setting up inspection parameters, what kind of controls they have to have, plans submitted, those sorts of things. So it's really just spelling that out. DNR wants to see that there's enforcement. So there's enforcement tied to that based on fines and like giving them written notice and how many days they have to correct the deficiencies. So that's kind of one of the areas. The other area was the illicit discharge. So that sets up anything in the city that's not stormwater or clean water going into the storm drains. Can be a violation, and then what the enforcement is for illicit discharges to the stormwater system. And then the last one is the post-construction BMPs. So right now we have flood control, so a lot of times you'll see the basins that are out there, that's typically what they use for flood control. This sets up having water quality as well as flood control. So all the water that's on a site that gets developed that's greater than 1 acre has to have the water be treated in some way, whether that's extended detention, that's bioretention basin, that's different swales and trenches that filter and help the sediment, settle, and it's not getting to the streams and the rivers and stuff. So that's kind of big picture what all the code changes are really trying to hone in on. I don't know if you guys made it through and have some questions, or
Made it through, but I don't know if I have questions.
Yeah, I actually read it too, but I don't think I guess the only question I have in just thinking about this
Yeah.
and talking about it, and this is from the fire service side.
Okay.
So there are occasions when we have water runoff from a fire scene.
Yep.
That usually goes into the storm sewers.
Yep.
So is that something that DNR is looking at? that-
So in that illicit discharge one, there's
Yeah.
specific wording that says all the exceptions that are not illicit discharges in emergency firefighter operations are not.
Awesome.
Now, if you guys are just spilling water, training or something, you kind of have to watch it a little bit, but anything for actual firefighting operations, you're good.
Very good.
One question I had was, so the discharge into like storm drain and things like that, I mean, is that all self-policed by the contractors, whoever and stuff like that, and followed up by you guys, or
As far as when it's a construction site or just in general?
when it's a construction site?
Yeah, so there's requirements in there for them to self-inspect, and the inspections are every 14 days. They have to submit to us inspections or after rain events within 72 hours. But the city will also be doing inspections, and if there's ever public complaints or if anyone sees anything, we'll follow up on that as well.
So if there's public complaints, does it go into fines and things like that then, or is it?
Yeah, so we set
contractors-
up that, so if there's if there's a violation, we send them a written notice. They have, I think it's set up for 7 days or a specified time amount. If the violation is something that's gonna take longer than 7 days to correct, we can kind of work on
Right,
that.
yeah.
And then if they don't correct in that time frame, then the fines and the different things come into play, yeah.
Okay.
I'm assuming this is pretty common language used by other cities or communities.
Yeah, this is taken from a couple different communities, kind of put together for what'll work, we think will work for Washington, and, yep.
Yeah, well, Chuck's question had a lot to do with mine, and mine is simple, is that who actually makes these inspections? Is it our building department?
That would be
Or
out of our
engineering.
engineering department, our
Okay.
infrastructure inspector for the most part. I can do them, and anyone else in the engineering
Okay.
department. Maybe our building inspectors if, it works out, but typically
Yeah,
not.
I guess if they're schooled on all that.
Yeah, there's training and stuff,
Okay,
so,
all right, thank you.
yep.
Any other questions or comments?
So when we had the audit back in '22, there's been a number of steps to make us get into compliance. And obviously with these changes, since they're in the Chapter 400, these specific code changes have to go to planning and zoning first, so.
Have you had a lot of instances where this may have occurred in the past few years, that you can think of that?
I think the biggest change will be construction sites. I mean, like, we always have, places where they're deficient in their stormwater runoff and silt and stuff getting into the stormwater system. So that'll be the biggest area. And then also the post-construction water quality. That's going to, something that developers have to, an added cost and extra work that they have to do on their end, so.
I think more than anything, it's the fact that our inspectors go there, see a problem, make the developer aware of it, and if, in a few instances, we've had an issue, and we don't have a backbone to back it up.
Yeah,
We can't, when do we write a stop work order on them? When do we, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kinda-
Where
it's
It says,
kinda
hey, do this, but if you
fuzzy
don't do
right
it, then what happens? And this clarifies a lot of that, part
notifies it
of
and
that.
cleans
Well,
it
up
up.
until this point in time, it's like, they sit there and post their whatever notifications for, the city DNR and all those kind of things when they're doing a construction site and all that kind of stuff. And so in the past, I imagine a lot of that was covered by what they thought was DNR, but now the city's gonna be covered at the same.
Yeah, they'll still have to get a DNR permit and all that because they're over an acre. So, I mean, that is covered, like you said, right now, but this kind of helps us as the city be the enforcer and really follow up on that, yeah.
Right.
Plus, I guess that's something that the Board of Appeals would look at. We still have a Board of Appeals, don't we?
Yep.
Yeah.
If there's nothing else, thanks.
Yeah, and I guess the only other note is there probably will be, I don't know how this works, there'll probably be a few other small changes along the way. Do I have to bring that back?
Yeah, anything in chapter 400 has to go.
Okay, so this is
DC
kind of the
before.
first draft. I'm still kind of working through DNR. They have a few tweaks and stuff, so this will probably be back in front of you guys before it's
Finalized.
final, but this
Okay.
is the bulk of the changes, so.
Right.
We'll have actually a couple, with the International Building Code, there's going to be some other changes to chapter 400. We're kind of compiling and figuring we may as well do them all at once when we do the official change, so.
So this is really just the first chance for us to look at it. No decision will be made tonight, and then he goes back and fine tunes it and brings it.
I didn't know if you were going to council next, but no, so you have a little bit.
Yeah, I got small changes, but this will be the bulk of it, so it gives you guys an opportunity. It also makes it kind of a public hearing in case people want to come in and comment or whatever, so.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right.
We did notice this as a comment period for tonight, so.
Great, thanks. Is there anyone that would like to comment on this? If not, entertain a motion if there's not further discussion.
Do we want a motion on this?
Oh,
since it's not
we can just-
finalized
yeah.
yet?
Mark, would be a motion to accept in the minutes or just to approve the changes as submitted so far?
I think you probably want to do that all at once,
Okay.
so I don't think you really need to do anything tonight.
Okay.
Moving on to item number 4 then. Other business comprehensive plan.
Yes, I kind of just wanted to leave it to an open discussion. We sent you the link for the download. I apologize if you weren't able to get it, but hopefully everyone was able to get that straightened out. The original link expired, the WeTransfer, and so then we had to set up a share file. So that is close to a final draft. Our steering committee did have comments and changes, some clarification stuff. We sent those comments to them a week after the steering committee, and then we should have them back. We've been expecting reviews every 2 weeks, so I would assume sometime this week I'll get the actual draft that we will post a public hearing on in March unless there's significant changes.
My only comments, I guess, on it so far is when we're putting this out for public comment and for us to discuss, are we going to have some kind of a workshop that we can, as a commission, discuss some of these things? For instance, the land use plan. That was the first yellow marker that I threw in there on page 5-2. Because the maps in there are so small, it's not even a half a page of an 8.5 by 11, and you lose all the detail. And I was just wondering, is it your plan to have like a workshop where we could have these maps enlarged and go through some of this stuff and digest it? I mean, those of us that have been on the steering committee have seen it.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of information in here that before we adopt it, we need to be 100% on board with everything that's in here. Is this truly what we want to shoot for?
Yep, that is a good idea. We could easily do that if everyone's available at 6 o'clock before your next meeting. Do an hour workshop prior to. I can ask, and then I can make, because they were already going to be here at that meeting,
Okay.
so I could have them come early and go through, and that way we can have almost like a question sent to them ahead of time, which I think would be helpful.
The good news is we don't have another historic preservation until May,
Correct, yeah.
so it's good.
Well, I think it's just important, that we look at the 7 action items, and make sure we're all clear on what that really means.
Yeah.
What code changes we're gonna have to do and what work we're gonna have to do as a commission to make that happen. And, the timelines and, just to digest it a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been looking at this for over a year, but some of the other commissioners haven't had that opportunity yet.
Yeah.
And
And we don't anticipate, adopting it in March. It would be 2 public hearings, so we could have a workshop, a public hearing that night, and then changes can be made until April or at the next meeting, or we can always have special meetings. But I know we've been talking about the schedule at the last steering committee meeting. Actually, Darren, city administrator, asked the consultant, can we just spread this out a little bit, or slow it down and add a month in here, just so we can make sure everyone's happy with the implementation strategy. And then there were some changes, obviously, from the steering committee. And I think it's also important, and their presentation explains this, that a lot of it seems like very big picture, kind of almost pie in the sky, like how are you ever gonna get that done in 10 years? But the idea is also you have, it's almost a longer range plan, longer than 10 years, and you have goals that you can say, okay, this is an example of what we'd like to see, and then you can make small chips at that. So just because there are 7 objectives under a goal, you don't have to hit all of those objectives to achieve that goal. He did a good job of explaining those are different objectives to achieve that goal. You don't have to do all of them, which I actually like better. It kind of broadens it. Like, for example, if you saw the streetscapes, I think are pretty,
Ambitious?
they're ambitious, thank you. And actually, Darren and I spoke to them the week after the steering committee, and we asked to at least have a version of this where it's only Jefferson and Fifth for that, because that's where they're kind of identifying as a neighborhood district with a new overlay. That would be very doable, especially with grants and that sort of thing. So obviously, we won't make those in a vacuum. We would show those different options with the final draft, but things like that. So, but yeah, there are a lot of recommended code changes, so.
Well, and then I like the way they did this time compared to 10 years ago, and we actually have steps to follow. And that's one of the things we wanted, but I just want to make sure that I don't want to adopt this document without some thought going into it as a commission, because I think there's important things that we're going to have our work cut out for us over the next year or two, that we're not just going to be coming here and approving stuff. I mean, there's homework.
When it is, I mean, for example, one of the very ambitious action items, but it got brought up at every public forum that the people present, the citizens present, prioritized having some type of secondary education, in the city limits, some type of higher education, whether it's workforce training or an actual college presence, trade school. They have action items in there within the first 3 years, or actually, I think the first 2 years to 18 months, I think is what it said, to identify land of where that would go, and actually, and what partner that would be. That's great, but do we, that's ambitious, we don't want to fall behind on your goals right away.
Right.
So.
On another, when you're talking about, like John was talking about those various maps, is there any way that you guys can supply those in a PDF that's about 36 by 48 size, that, if there was a link on wherever that could be accessed, so that, if you wanted to download it, you could sit there and mark it up and those kind of things and stuff too? Again, it's like John says, by the time you start zooming into some of those things, you really lose detail compared to when we had those 3-foot by 4-foot things there to make all these, right, all those things that we could sit there and.
And what really brought that to my attention was the land use plan, Sal. And that's the first one that's got like 15 keys to it. And there's no way you can tell what those different colors are and the hash marks and things like that in it. So that's one for sure. I don't know that we have to get that kind of detail maybe necessarily on the parks,
I was thinking more of like that in the commercial mixed use type things and stuff like that,
Right, because in the presentations at the steering committee, he pulls them out into different slides.
Right, I mean, the parks and things are just good for a general area and stuff, but those, you'd like to get a little bit more detail as far as what areas you're really referring to, or what the outlines are really covering.
The other thing that I gleaned out of that too, again, after reading through it and getting some citizens' comments, I've been kind of talking to some folks about it, and that's our parking downtown. And kind of, I noticed it a couple weeks ago, we wanted to go down to the landing to eat dinner on a Friday night at 5:30, and I don't know what was going on downtown, but you could not find a place to park.
It's typical Friday now, yeah.
Yeah,
It's the entertainment district.
it is.
It's-
And I think we have to, and he mentions that in here, about a parking survey.
Strategy. So the downtown-specific goals and objectives were brought to the downtown board, and they did endorse this draft, and obviously prioritized some type of parking strategy. And they realized too, before you ever get anything like that funded, you're gonna have to have some type of third-party
Sure.
strategy consultant brought in. So yeah, that is definitely something was brought up. And that is something that, you know, the TIF district could pay for. We could work into the next budget, but yeah.
And that's something that we have to think about too. I
Where it
think,
would go, yeah.
Where we go and, you know, and what we do with that. So those are just some of the major points that I saw going through it that I want to make sure the commission's aware of everything.
Yep.
How do you feel about the zoning changes and handling it, you know, and implementing
I
it?
think we're gonna, I really like the last comprehensive plan identified Fifth Street, you know, as need to make it more pedestrian friendly, had some recommended code changes that we did, but they didn't really have any teeth, like allowing people to build up to the street but not requiring it. This is actually setting, we always have setbacks, that the minimum. Now this is setting actually a building line that is requiring it, and I think that's gonna change a lot as you redevelop Fifth and Jefferson. So it actually gives them some more actionable steps there. So I'm definitely comfortable with the proposed code changes. I think they're doable to a degree. We even talked about, you know, it talks about architectural guidelines and those much more specific code changes. I think we can take smaller bites at that. You know, I don't think we're to the point where we can say we need to have architectural review, you know, guidelines downtown, but maybe we can start, you know, just like historic preservation added backlit signs can no longer be in the downtown district, you can start adding things like that, so,
You nibble.
yeah. So, yeah, I'm definitely happy with the draft we have now, I think it's doable.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
We're gonna have to probably make some major changes. I mean, there's gonna be overlays over overlays, which I know gets confusing, so we'll probably have to just dissolve some overlay districts and draw new ones, but that's not a big deal. It's kind of, it's the time to do it when you're having all these maps drawn up, so.
I'm curious, I mean, it's my first comprehensive plan, but with the actual dashboard development, how exactly do we envision, I know I saw the different images and different examples, because I think that's going to be really helpful based off of who I've been talking with my citizens, just about how, you know, some awareness as we do, you know, do those little bite sizes, understanding where we are and all the 7 goals, I think will be super critical for how we are just transparent.
Yeah, that's a conversation, that's a question I've had for them as well, because obviously when our contract is done with them, they're not going to be hosting our dashboard. And so it'll have to be something that we can work into our existing website, which we've brought up with IT. Shouldn't be a big deal. The reason it hasn't been drafted yet is that we are actually in the process of switching from WordPress to a different website with the city's getting an app and new website at once. It's under design right now. So yes, we'll have to figure out a way to add that dashboard on there, but it shouldn't be a big deal. But yeah, that was a big point when we interviewed different consultants. We didn't just want it to be a PDF, a 120 page.
Put it on the shelf and don't look at it.
Yeah, we wanted something
Right.
where you could show the goals and objectives, almost like, you know, they showed examples of other cities, other dashboards they had, so.
And honestly, it would give me, just as like a newer commissioner, just what direction of like where we are going, where we've been. And I think it just tell a good story.
Yep.
And I thought it was good, if you look at the short-term implementation action items, planning is really a lot of the primary implementers in this whole process. And I see us getting more involved in this document.
So when you identify, we asked them to identify which department was responsible. It's a lot of planning and economic development, obviously. But yeah, I've thought about that too. We may need some subcommittees to get some of these.
I thought you're gonna hire more people.
You did.
Yeah, yeah, you
More!
That kind of leads to my next question is the city staff going to be able to handle the stuff that we as a commission feel we need to do out of this?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so. We've been comfortable with this,
Okay.
Darren and I have reviewed, obviously, even prior to hiring Sarah. and,
Nibble.
Yeah, like I said, we've been taking nibbles at a lot of this stuff, we're not gonna, overnight switch to form-based code, which is kind of that architectural style and very strict zoning laws, but we can take, a better approach to how we envision what Jefferson and Fifth Street's gonna look like, so.
I just want to make sure we've done this work, we've put a lot of time into it, that we just don't fold it up and set it on a shelf and not
Yep.
look at it.
Yeah, I will see, shortly after adoption, we'll have a lot of workshops on code changes. Sarah's already got a working document of code changes she's interested in, even not related to the comp plan. We'll have quite a bit to do, but that's good. We had a light agenda, focus our time on that.
And that's the way it's been in the past. I mean, we've had 47 widening forever. I bet that's 40 years, and it's probably be 20 more at least.
Well, and honestly, having it identified, a lot of these goals and objectives, it's an adopted plan that you've got public input on, and if we're gonna ask the voters to renew a transportation sales tax, a lot of these goals in there can't be done without that, so, it gives you some ammunition to help support that, if you wish.
Now, this is just a draft.
Yes.
Okay, when you have your other documents, stuff like that, they're gonna be more with, where the links are more, if it's like your index and things like that. If you clicked on 1.4, is it gonna automatically jump down to 1.4, or?
It should, yeah, because we've asked it to be, even the PDF to be interactive.
That's what I'm
That was-
wanting to make sure is.
Yeah, that was
Good.
part of what we asked for that final, have that dashboard that kind of lives online, and then an interactive table of contents, because as you know now, our existing one is just, even, I think it's over 300 pages when you get all the, like newspaper clippings. and
Right.
everything, so.
Any other questions, comments?
Guess
And please
only,
continue to send me any comments, questions, because we have been compiling them, sending them periodically to our consultant. And like we said, I'll verify about that workshop, but we can send them kind of questions up front that we're we want to dive into at that workshop.
have we thought, I know we obviously have a consultant, but any type of, I don't know, because I'm looking at the different goals. There are like various nonprofits that are like leading experts in the region of things like, transportation, walkable freeways, or things like that. Have we looked at maybe other kind of nonprofit partners that whenever consulting's done, implementation is happening, and then we actually can have more ongoing relationships?
Well,
Just a
the
thought.
Chamber and Downtown are technically two nonprofits who are very involved in this. They have some of the goals are identified as kind of their target. But other than that, we haven't necessarily identified. I think what we want to do, what we didn't do a good enough job last time, is having kind of regular updates of the comp plan. You're supposed to do by state statute, we had our 5-year public hearing. We did do that, but you're supposed to be able, make changes and adapt things as they go, so. we can do that.
I just feel like in general, with all the different connections we do have, being close to St. Louis, we can talk offline, but I feel like there's a lot of cool opportunities with all the various schools we have where there are key organizations that solely do that work, and they could help us a little bit as well.
Like Greenway, the
Right.
bike path.
Great Rivers Greenway, yep.
Oh, yeah,
And they have helped us in the past.
Yep.
Yeah,
that'd be
So-
great. Because I know their vice president, they're really good people.
yeah, but they've been, yeah.
And if you know of others that want to jump
Yes.
in and help,
Oh, yeah.
great.
We'll take whoever we can get.
That's right. Anything else? If not,
Well, I got one other thing.
yes.
So last Monday, there was that council meeting with the trash vendor, okay? So you know, the people that, you know, you've got recycling and you've got a trash can, okay? So recycling is a 96-gallon container, and if they supply a trash bin for them, that's another 96-gallon container. As we're getting lots smaller and houses smaller, is there gonna be a need to sit there and require a certain minimum size for a garage? Because many of the new subdivisions are also having covenants that the trash cans need to be inside. And so it's like we're getting to a point that you can't put 2 cars in there and have a trash can,
Trash can?
have 2 trash cans along the side. They've got to pull a vehicle out to get a trash can out. And so
I wonder if
We're-
the fire code has a garage, something to look into. I didn't know, because of fire hazard.
we're getting to a point almost of a catch-22 for the people that, you know, we're supplying 96-gallon trash cans because it's easy for them to mechanically pick these things up. But at the same time, with the covenants that everybody's getting, that they're wanting trash cans inside, not visible from the street, is the way it's worded. You know, they're starting to get into a catch-22 about some of those things. Just a thought.
Yep.
I don't know if it's covered anything right now,
No
but
requirements on garage.
No, because, yeah, and
I know,
it'd be
it's just-
difficult, because when we get like, when you're reviewing a building permit, from the planning and zoning side, you're just looking at the site plan.
exactly.
Setbacks, you're not gonna see the
Exactly.
details of that. Obviously, our
And
building.
we're saying
department will.
that, you know, physical lot size and, you know, you're gonna build a house within whatever
Yeah.
setbacks and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be a change to chapter 400, it'd be a change to chapter 500, which is the building code. So, I mean, I can bring it up with our building inspector too, see if he's had issues, something we can keep an eye on. I'd make a
Yeah, like I
recommendation,
said,
I guess, to change.
Right, like I said, we're starting to get to almost a catch-22 for some of these people and stuff.
I've seen some of them build a outside fenced-in area.
Sure.
Which looks nice from the street, you know, and solves
As
that
long
problem.
as they can't see it, and that's what, again, it's like, there's, in the subdivision next to us, they're not wanting those either, because they've got a standard fence that everybody's using, the same type of fence. It's the metal fence that's, you can see through.
I think the public will drive that too, that they know. They, you know, want to be able to get things in their garage, they're going to demand bigger garage.
Well, I can bring it up at our next site plan meeting and see if our building department
But it was
wants
just
to
something,
propose a code
I
change.
thought of, you know, while they was at that meeting and stuff like that, and listen to people's comments about things.
Well, like, to your point, Chuck, if we continue to allow 6,000 square foot lots, you can't put a house in the garage to fit 2 cars and a trash can in. And that's your catch.
Yeah.
That's to your point, yeah. I don't want to be overreach as far as what size house and garage you have to build.
No,
But I understand your point.
Right, yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Sal, do you have anything else?
Nope.
I'll entertain one last motion then.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second, all those in favor?
Hi.
Any
Thank you, guys.
disapprove?
Thanks, Charles.
That is funny you say that, Chuck, though, about the trash can, because I have a big garage in my house, and it became a problem when we got those new recycling bins. Where am I gonna put the thing?
Yeah.
Had to make a special spot for
But it's like, yeah, the subdivision next to
Always good to see you.
They now have a